Okay, so let's just be honest here. Getting over an addiction to drugs or alcohol can be really difficult. And it's not uncommon for people early in sobriety to, should we say, not be real happy about having to get sober. Some may go so far as to even say, this sucks. And the point that I want to make today is that one, it's really understandable that they get in that position because when you think about it, we're being asked to give up something that makes us feel good, not to mention all the fun that goes along with it. But on the other side of the coin is the fact that there's a lot of people in sobriety who will say, this is absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me because they see the doors that it opens for personal growth and for inspiration and fulfillment. And they see that what seemed to be a really bad thing that happened for them, i.e., having to stop using, opened the door to the best thing that could have happened in their life. So the trick is, how do we get from point A of this sucks or I'm miserable to point B, this is a really awesome experience? That's what we're going to talk about here today. Let's go ahead and dive in. Hey folks, so welcome to Jim Savage Recovery. I'm your host, Jim Savage, where we're here talking about all things related to substance use, addiction, and recovery, mainly from a perspective of this being a journey to personal transformation. I offer tips, tools, resources, both for individuals in recovery as well as for families who might be supporting a loved one in recovery. And so today, as I said in our opening, we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental issues that I think should be addressed in responsible addressing of a substance use issue, and that's the fact that it's really difficult to get sober, and it's not uncommon to not be happy about doing that. Over the holidays, I actually sat down and wrote a short little ebook that I'm going to pull up the slide here, that I actually titled Sobriety Doesn't Have to Suck, a guide to finding excitement, renewal, and spiritual fulfillment in recovery. And again, I wanted to put my thoughts down and share this with other people because I think, like I said, it's one of the most fundamental, it's the starting block of recovery. And there's a lot of people out there who are either, maybe thinking for a while, should I give up using, maybe have tried getting sober, but you found that you didn't like it. Something was missing. Or there's even a lot of people who have already been in recovery for a while, but might feel like there's something missing and still could be 10 years sober and say, there's nothing, I'm not happy about this, as opposed to expanding your horizons and opening some doors to maybe feeling more fulfilled. And that's some of the stuff that I like to focus on in my work. If I didn't mention, I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. I've been working in the field for a really long time, like 35 years. And one of the things that is my passion is helping people find not just getting dry, because you have to, but actually having really neat experiences as a result of going through this process. And again, I use the word transformation a lot. I think it boils down to, the shift from this sucks, I'm missing something that's felt good for me, to this being a really exciting thing, and I see how good this is for me to have made this change in my life. When it comes down to it, that really does add up to a transformative experience. Somebody can stay dry and white knuckle it, and I'm just not using, and they're not changing anything. Changing an attitude about why we're staying sober and here's the key that I wanted to spell out through this book that I wrote, is how do we actually start to feel good about ourselves, and what are we going to replace what we were using the substances to help us feel good with. And so what thought I would do for this video today is I'm just going to go through, I'm going to pull up the table of contents here for this book. Again, I give this book away free. It's an ebook. I give it away free. This isn't a video to pitch my book. I want to give it to you, give it away to you. At the end of this video, I'll put a link up. You can just download it. It's short. I don't know, it's like 30 pages or something like that. And again, it's just my experience of working in the treatment field for a long time and having a lot of success in helping people find, again, not just dry, but enriching recovery and being excited about recovery and the doors that opens for continued personal growth. And so, like I said, I thought I'd use the table of contents to just as sort of my talking points or bullet points to give you an idea of what's in this book. I'll make a few comments on each one of these sections, but then again, you can download this and read the whole thing on your own. So in the introduction, I give an example of when I had the idea to write this. I hadn't even started writing this. I designed the cover of this, and I was just playing around with the title. And I was doing a session with a client, and I said, "Hey, I want to show you something. I want you to take a look at this and think about it for a second, and I want you to tell me what you think of as you look at this." And I showed him the cover that I'd come up with, and he looked at it for a second, and he said, "Well," and he started to laugh, and he said, "That's sure is how I felt those first couple of months." I should say I've been working with this guy for 4, maybe 5 months at this point. And so he said, that first month or two, you remember how miserable I was. I was walking around crying about this and complaining about this, and I thought my life was over. And he laughed heartily as he said, "I can definitely say it sucked." And then I pointed out to him that, we were at the end of a session. I said, we just spent the last hour talking about a bunch of things that you have been demonstrating. You are, as this title says, you're excited about recovery. You've been demonstrating some stuff that could fall under the category of you look like a new person, renewal. We actually talked about some spiritual stuff, and he was talking about how he was feeling fulfilled. And like I said, I hadn't even started writing the manuscript yet, but I pointed out to him, you have gone from, he definitely related to this sucked at the beginning, but this was just a couple of short months later. He was like doing really well. He was excited. He was on fire about recovery, and he had stuff that he was being able to back up his statements about that. Yes, I'm okay with sobriety. He was definitely proving that. And so I talked to him about what I'm going to write in this manuscript, I guess, is going to be how do we get from point A, this sucks, to point B, this is really awesome. And I sort of used, the rest of that session with him. Let's talk about what have we been doing in here in our sessions that have helped you move from point A to point B. Okay, and so then, we went over some of the activities that I've been giving him to do, some of the material I've been having him work with, and some of the topics of our conversations and things that he was doing outside of our sessions as well. But then I went ahead and I wrote the contents of the book, and another session or two later, we pulled it up on the screen and we read through it, and I was actually pretty pleased, surprised at his response to it. He actually loved reading this book because it was really describing what had happened for him, but he was also saying at the time that he was reading this, this is making me even more motivated. This is helping me realize how awesome this experience is that I've been going through these last couple of months. And so if I go back here, first section, personal transformation. I already mentioned this idea of I am really, my passion in the work that I do is helping people experience transformation. And so in this book here, I don't go as deep into this concept of transformation as I do with a lot of my other material, but I just mentioned that this moving from point A, I'm miserable and this sucks, to point B, this is a really awesome experience, is more than just not using, tying myself to a chair, as they say, white knuckling it, and nothing really changing, obviously. But becoming happy and excited and fulfilled represents a pretty dramatic shift. And again, if you're around recovery circles, if you're around recovering people, around families of loved ones who have achieved successful recovery, it's pretty common to identify or characterize that their experiences, they are a new person. They are a different person. And again, I go into, this is the heart of all the work that I do. You can look around on my YouTube channel for all sorts of other material about where I go way deeper into transformative experiences and ways of achieving that. But for right now, we're just going to leave it at that one, this is different than just not using. It represents a shift. And then the next one, number 3 there, where it says inside job. The point there, I start that off by suggesting that there's a book I read a long time ago by a guy named Andrew Weil. It was called The Natural Mind, and in it he said man has an innate tendency to alter consciousness. And he lists that there's also, we start learning that at an early age. We spin around in circles, we get dizzy, we fall down, and what do? Do we cry or do we laugh and smile when we get dizzy and fall down? It's sort of a fun experience. We sort of laugh and, oh, what's happening here? That's an altered state of consciousness. And we seem to sort of like it. And then we go through this progression as we get older of learning different ways to change how we feel. Drugs and alcohol are one really common way to do that. And it's easy to stall out at that level. And because his point is that there's even more levels of ways to alter our consciousness, each one becoming more effective and, in a sense, more pure. And the main point that I say in here on this inside job section is simply identifying the dynamic of, am I looking outside of myself to change how I feel, or am I going within and learning how to feel good from within? That's the important point. It can be really simple. With drug and alcohol use, we're going outside ourselves to get a good feeling, which ideally is perhaps better to be able to learn how to generate that good feeling from within. That's a key to this transformational piece. And the first step in being aware of, the first step to be aware of in moving from this sucks to I'm excited about this. And then you'll see here, number 4, it says spiritual or religious. That happens to also be a favorite topic of mine. I don't know if I'd say favorite, but a topic that I think is very, very important to talk about in this whole recovery arena. And mainly I'm coming from the fact that I'm aware that in recovery circles, there can be religious or spiritual references, overtones. The 12-step program and AA in particular, they have the word God in it. And I'm really aware that a lot of people, that's a turnoff that can become a barrier to them. And one of the things I have devoted my really career towards is helping unpack that, because a lot of people that can end up becoming a barrier to even moving forward in recovery, when by taking a little bit of focused extra effort, attention to that, and unpacking what is really meant by this spiritual angle of recovery, we can sort of dilute this. It's not necessarily, you don't have to adopt an organized religion, and go down to the river and get baptized to be able to become sober. But a lot of times we don't talk about that. And one of the easiest ways to sort of frame that is, okay, difference between spirituality and religion. Again, I mentioned this briefly in here. I've got a number of other videos on my YouTube channel that go into this in a lot more detail, so I'd encourage you to look at those. But my experience has been, by taking some time to just sort of spell out, let's clarify exactly what is meant by spiritual or a spiritual element to recovery. That can go a long way in helping to dispel some of people's aversions or objections to recovery. So I talk a little bit about that in there. Then the next section, number 5 there, carrot or stick. I am also a big believer that shaming someone or scaring them into recovery, that would be the stick part of that. Forcing somebody into recovery by making them feel bad, that's probably not going to be as effective as perhaps helping them have an experience that gets them excited, gives them a glimpse of neat stuff that can happen, and maybe a glimpse of what it feels like to feel good from within. Remember I said there's that sort of evolution? There's other things that we can be doing besides drugs and alcohol that can alter our consciousness and change how we feel. Again, when we get stuck at that one level of drug and alcohol use, we're sort of sometimes in a trap of, we don't know what else there is, because that's the only feeling. Well, okay, feeling good about myself, that sounds sort of boring. Okay, whatever, yeah, fine, I feel good about myself. But there are things, again, I've been doing this my whole career, helping people have, powerful, positive experiences. But the bottom line is, it's about being able to feel good from within, and recovery is supposed to feel good. I wouldn't tell people to get sober if it was supposed to just stay miserable. It's not going to be a sentence for the rest of your life and you just have to be miserable. But again, the carrot is, I found, by helping people, give them some sort of experience that makes them want more. That's going to be a lot more motivating in helping somebody want to continue moving forward in this and actually explore and develop a more effective recovery, again, that makes you feel good about yourself. So then the next section, finding your inspiration, that is where in the book I start going a little bit more in depth or detail about what some examples of that carrot could be. What are some activities, some types of things that you can start doing, then that focus or that set an intention of helping you become inspired. Because the bottom line is, successful recovery is only going to depend on how much motivation there is on your part. Again, if you're doing it for other people, the chances are you are going to be, I don't know, miserable is a strong word to say, but you could see how it would be hard to expect somebody to feel really great about giving up something that they like doing if they're doing it only because other people are expecting them to do it. But you becoming inspired yourself is obviously going to be that key to making this a positive experience. And then finally, in number 7 there, I give some specific thoughts and suggestions on activities that you can do to create the chance of making this a more positive experience. And I will say that I say throughout this, there's no guarantee. I can't tell you exactly what to do, and this is going to make this positive. What I do is I use the analogy of fishing. I say to catch a positive experience, something that changes and gets your attention and inspires you to want to keep moving. You never know when that's going to happen. It could happen in a single moment when you're sitting out having a spiritual experience, meditating with the trees and the birds, or it could happen in a crisis situation, and all of a sudden you have a sort of life and death thing and it changes your attitude about everything. It could come from reading, educational material, and some lights come on and it makes sense to you. No guarantee as to where or when and how you're going to get this. What I did in my tips for enriching your recovery is give, again, I use the metaphor of fishing. I don't know, can't guarantee you're going to catch a fish, but I think that the more time you spend with your hook in the water, the greater the chances are of catching a fish. And so what I said in there is I'm going to give you some examples of what I think are good fishing holes, places to put your hook, and the more time you spend in those arenas or activities, the greater the chances of you experiencing and moving towards that positive experience. So, and I'm not going to go into all those right there. Just know that in there I think there's 4 specific areas that I talk about that can be pretty good guides to, like they said, the subtitle, finding excitement, renewal, and spiritual fulfillment in your own recovery. So I'm going to there's a link, I'll probably put it in the video right now, and I'll put a link down in the comments to where you can download this free ebook. And I hope that you found this helpful. If you have any questions, contact me through my website at jimsavage.net. Take a look around there to see the other services that I have. I work with individuals trying to help people have this experience for yourself. If you find this helpful, if you get this book, share it with others. I just think it's a valuable thing to get out there and increase our awareness and conversations about recovery, reducing the stigma about it. And the main thing that I want to emphasize is to validate if you're struggling with recovery, if you've had the attitude, that sucks, I tried it before and this sucks. My point is to validate that's understandable, really understandable, but there is a way to be able to experience that in a different way. It doesn't have to suck. It can be really awesome. Hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.